life over here. He didn't want any publicity. And he got questionnaires from Israel to fill them out about Eichmann. They invited him to come, of course, to the trial. But that time he was healthy, but he wasn't feeling too well. He died very shortly thereafter. He was in his 70s, and there came a moment when after that kind of a life, you know, that was enough. So they sent him, somebody may have interviewed him. I know there was a questionnaire that came, which Mama helped fill out. That's in the Beck Institute. And he never testified. They may have used some of the papers for testimony. And my mother, after she was a widow, was invited by old friends from Vienna to come to Israel. And she watched some of the Eichmann trial, and she said it was totally surrealistic. She had met Eichmann in Vienna, you know, when she was ready to be shipped to a concentration camp, packed up and everything. Then they forgot or didn't do it. Then suddenly he was in a glass booth and she was watching the trial. She thought this was rather surrealistic. So Papa was not really involved in the trial anymore, though his name came up in the trial. I was born in Lemberg, but I was about 2 weeks old when we came to Vienna. So I grew up in Vienna all the time. My earliest memory is the funeral of Kaiser Franz Joseph. The emperor had ruled for, what, 60 years or something. From 48, it was 1916, I was 2 years old. And my grandparents lived on the Ringstrasse. And the procession, the funeral procession walked by right there. You know, all the demonstrations and processions were visible from the window, from the balcony. And my earliest memory, childhood memory, is being held by Grandma. I was on the windowsill and she held me. And what I remember were the horses dressed in black. It's 1922. And so it was the first real contact with those fugitives to America. Manne couldn't come because it was business and he was maintaining. By that time, I think he had already started his own company or whatnot. So Frida and Walter came and spent a good deal of time with us, and we spent a summer vacation together in the Tyrol, in Meyerhofen. Walter must have been 2, yeah, and I was 8, so he was a little nothing. And as 8, I was grown up compared to him. And so we got to know Frida and Walter very well. And Manne came later just to meet the family again. I don't recall the year. It was in the middle of the season in Vienna. I was somewhere in school. It was sometime in the 20s. Just to see his mother again for the first time, whom I hadn't seen since he had left in the 1890s. Huh? You know, this was, what, almost 30 years later. I remember the moment when he entered the apartment. You know, there was Mama and there were all of us. And, you know, the relations between people are not subject really to rush. I don't know that for music. A tone by itself is okay. If you put 2 tones together, they either click or they don't. They either sound ghastly or well. It's the same with people, I'm sure of it. Manek and I had immediately very much affinity. Very much affinity. And we always stayed in touch. And we saw more of him afterwards, even though there was a summer in 1929 when Frida